Each week at this time we have a reading, and it's brought to us by one of our licensed practitioners. A practitioner is someone who has studied this teaching and has demonstrated the ability to do affirmative prayer work very effectively and successfully for themselves and for other people. So today, they are available to you to do that kind of work for you. So today our practitioner and our speaker and our treater is Judy Aiden.
Is this on? Oh, good. Good morning. Glad to be here. Welcome. It's nice to see everyone this morning. We had a beautiful break in the weather, so thank you, Universe, for that. All right. Today I'm going to share a reading from this week's Readings from the Science of Mind textbook, and this is in the section called Physical Perfection. It is necessary that we believe in a perfect body. One cannot realize this unless one has already become convinced that the perfect body is there. There is a perfect heart and a perfect idea of heart. There is a perfect head and a perfect idea of head, perfect lungs and a perfect idea of lungs. One must realize that back of the appearance is the reality with a capital R. And it is our business to uncover this reality. One does this through a process of obliterating false thought. One must deny false conclusions, bring out the evidence of perfection, and produce the healing. Disease is a fact, but not a truth. It is an experience, but not a spiritual reality. We must transcend the appearance, even though we admit that it is a fact. All right, so with that, I want to lead us in an affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. And I hope that you'll just take a few moments to get comfortable in your seat, to relax, to take several nice, slow, deep breaths, and just bring your attention to being here in this place right now. Just letting go of anything else that may be on your mind, maybe that you've been thinking about. And at the very beginning here, I want us to just have some moments of silence to kind of just sink into that place of knowing our oneness with all that is. So I'm going to just be quiet for a little bit here. I recognize and know that there is one power, one presence, one love, one light, one eternal goodness, one healing presence, one divine intelligence, one perfect presence, and that as I recognize this, and I recognize that it is really all that there is, it is the allness of life, it is the great I am, that I know that I am one with this presence. I am one with this power. I am one with this goodness, that my life, and please accept this for yourself as I do this in the first person, that my life is an expression of this oneness, of this great goodness, of this love beyond our wildest imaginations, that we are perfection at the physical level in our physical bodies, that our worlds
we are one with this, and we sink into that oneness, sink into that knowingness. And as we sense our oneness with the great power that is this allness, that we know that there is nothing else, that any appearance of anything contrary to this is simply, it's really not the truth. It's not the truth of who I am. It is not the truth of spirit, that beyond and behind any appearance of trouble of any kind, whether it be illness, discord, struggle, strain, lack, limitation, feeling of being a victim, any of that, we just let go of that and know that those things are just really nothing. That at the spiritual level, that all is well. That Spirit is desiring to express through us in greater and greater ways. And that as I know this, at the spiritual level, at this level of heart, that my world transforms, my physical world, my world of effect transforms to match my belief at the spiritual level, my belief in wholeness, perfection, love, peace, abundance, great ideas, new creativity. That this is the truth of who we are. This is the truth of all people in the world. And we recognize this. We look for it. Even in situations where it just seems like, how can this be the presence of Spirit? How can this be goodness? How can this be in this world? That behind that through it, Spirit is there. Spirit is expressing, and we just open ourselves up to seeing it, to recognizing Spirit everywhere. Because Spirit really is all that there is. So as I know this, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for this teaching in my life, that it transforms my life, that it allows me to live a life that is one where I have a great, vibrant, healthy body, that I have new ideas, that I have new experiences that are fun and wonderful and that match what I need in my life absolutely perfectly. That this presence, this power of God wants to respond to me, does respond to me, as I plant seeds of love, of peace, of generosity, of great abundance, of new ideas. And I just know that this is the truth. There's nothing that opposes this. God is all there is, and God is not divided against itself. So I'm grateful for this knowing. I release these words into the law, and I know that the law always responds. So whether I am conscious of using the law or not, it always responds to me. So today, I use this law consciously. I use it with intention. I place my best thought out there, and knowing that my life is transformed by this. I'm grateful for this knowing. I release this treatment now, knowing that it is so, and so it is.
So the first question that, not the one person handed to me, but in the first little group, which I think is a great question, and that is, why follow this teaching? Good question. Why not? Well, here's why I follow this teaching. I will tell you that I grew up in a world where I was taught that good and evil reign supreme, where life is all about the battle between the two. And the God of the good was a God that was 100% love, 100% giving, and yet still doled out punishments and blessings. And I couldn't make sense of that. I never did. I kept working with that and working with that. I even went and got advanced degrees to try to help me figure it out, and could never come to peace with it. And I kept believing that underneath and behind all of this talk about different religions and different ideas, that there had to be some core philosophy, some core idea that transcended and was more than the stories that we tell about him. That all of the different religious stories point to something, and yet we seem to get lost in the story, or we get lost in the pointing. One of my early teachers in this teaching said that Jesus came to show us the way 2,000 years ago, and we've been studying his fingernail ever since. And for me, this teaching goes beyond studying the fingernail. This teaching goes to what is the way. And it takes the core ideas, the underpinning ideas of almost every religion, and brings it together into a singular teaching. And that is that there is one power. And that one power is working its good in the world all the time. And no matter what appearances may be, at times, and it looks like two powers at work, there's a later question in here about that, that underneath and behind it, there's something greater trying to happen. So I follow this teaching because it makes the most sense to me. I'm not asked to check my brain at the door and take anything on faith. And we're not asking you to do that either. But I am suggesting, that you study the ideas of this teaching enough that you can decide, do I really think this might be the truth for me? Is it possible that with all the chaos and craziness in the world, there is only one power? Or if you go past the philosophical and get to my everydayness, that my thinking changes my life. If I had my lemon, I would bite into it for you right now. And you would immediately have a change in your life based on your thinking. You'd either be salivating or making faces or whatever, because I've done it and it works. And the only thing that changed in that moment is your thought. How you think about it makes the difference. And if it happens at that simple a level, then it can happen at a larger and larger level. So we call ourselves, some of us call ourselves religious scientists. We are a new thought teaching. And the science part is testing these ideas and these things until we believe that they are true or not. And we eliminate what we don't, we take what we like, leave the rest. So that's why I would follow it. And everybody I know who does has greater health, greater wealth, greater opportunities to express love, and a greater sense of purpose and joy in their work. I've never known anyone to get really involved in this teaching and their lives fall apart. They might fall apart temporarily, they might have a little setback, but it really makes a difference in the long run. Okay, way too long an answer. Now then, if we accept that there is one power rather than duality in the universe, light versus dark, good versus evil, how does morality fit into this philosophy? What framework do you use for choices we make, and how do they define a bad choice? Love this question. It's one of my favorites because it's a simple answer, and I happen to know it from the perspective of the science mind. And that is, if one power is all there is, then my choices about what is good for me or what I should or shouldn't do in any situation has only two things to consider from a moral standpoint. First is, does this choice bring greater life, greater livingness, and a greater, more expansive sense of life? That's the first one. Or does it somehow diminish life and pull it in tighter and suck it in and close it up? And then the second one is, does it do harm to anyone else? I mean, real harm. Not just, make somebody mad or they disagree with you, but really something that would cause hurt or somewhere else. Those are our two principles that we build the morality of this teaching around. And our questions and answers to ourselves about how do we make a certain decision? Does it bring greater life or greater or less life? Does it take me down a path of expansion or a path of collapse? Because you see, if there is one power and we're it, then we have within us this natural, innate desire to expand, to be more, to live more, to know more, to feel more, to love more. So following that would be to look for those things and choose those things in our lives that allow us to do that. Which means sometimes a lot of change comes along for us. But it also, for me, gives me a chance to really think through a decision based on that. Is this greater living or is it less? Am I holding on and closing on? Okay? Clear? Clear. Good. are surrounded by those with ego. Big egos. Oh, I didn't tell you you wrote this. So anyway, it's a great question. How do we spiritually transcend this and create something better? How do we transcend other people's egos or our own? Both. Because you can't really do one without the other. You know, an ego is an interesting thing. It means a lot of different things depending on what perspective you're talking about it from. From the perspective of psychology, it is that inner organizing part of you that you can't live without. Because if your ego dies, then you're going to the dark night of the soul, and you can't, find your way out of the wet paper bag. But, and from the spiritual standpoint of Science of Mind and of Ernest Holmes, our founder, the ego is the spiritual self. The ego is the true self that helps you organize and find your way through life and giving you the very best ideas. Now, in our world today, the popular way we talk about ego is pride, selfishness, bullying sometimes gets put under the umbrella of ego. And we think about it as that part of us that just overrides everything good because I want what I want when I want it, and you get out of the way. So I'm assuming the question's coming more from that perspective. And I will tell you that, in my opinion, the way we, quote, overcome ego is to first of all learn to love our own egos. See, if you've got some egotistical thing going in your life where you're charging ahead regardless and you're ignoring everyone else, you're doing that because somehow, some way it served you to learn to do things that way. Somehow, somewhere back there in your history, you got hurt. And therefore, you had to build this external vision or view of yourself to make up for whatever's going on inside. Big ego people, in truth, if you're talking about that kind of big out there, run over your ego stuff, is really somebody who inside doesn't feel so big. And now, is our purpose to psychoanalyze them? No. Our purpose is to love them. The way to overcome that in other people is to do what we teach all the time, and that is to teach namaste. Namaste is from another language. It's from the Sanskrit. It means the spirit in God in me honors the spirit in God in you. Is to recognize that ego that's coming at you, or that you feel like you're being overwhelmed by, is not the truth of that person. And you choose instead to respond to and think about and talk to that person from the standpoint of, this is a divine spiritual being in front of me, and I'm going to relate to the spirit within me. You'll be amazed at how things can change, how people can change, how the way they deal with you will change, because the shift is because you're seeing something in them that is the truth of them. Every one of us are fully formed spiritual beings, and for some of us it's hidden more than for others. Some of us are more aware of it. The whole point of this teaching is to become aware of it. You're not bad. You're not wrong. You're not evil, and neither are they. There's only good, and there's only God, and it's alive and well in you. You do it from the inside out, whether it's your ego or someone else's. Love that part of you. My ego likes to wear fancy colored suits and stomp around, and if I could get away with sequins, I would probably do that. And just show off, He's a showman, which makes it possible for me to even stand up here, because there are other parts of me that don't want to go out of my house that would love to just sit and read all the time. So you love every part of you, including those ego sort of things, and appreciate them for what they are, and then recognize none of that is the whole story of you. The whole story of you hasn't yet unfolded. It hasn't yet fully been brought forward and brought out. Let's save that one a little bit later. Not answering that one. It's the burrito question. Can God make a burrito, microwave a burrito that gets too hot that even God can't eat it? If you're serious about that question, talk to me later. It's a good one. They're all good, but here's one that I can't approach an answer to. Our thoughts control our experiences. Does that mean if something bad happens to me, it's my fault? If not, why not? Okay, this one's fun. This one's good. The whole issue of fault starts with the idea that there's something wrong. It's your fault because there's something wrong with you or there's something bad. And in my mind, when I hear fault, I always think of asphalt. Asphalt's just laying around out there. I drive on it, I'm done with it. Fault, it does not help any of us to start looking for where the fault of anything is, because fault implies the wrongness. And we live in a universe of oneness, and a universe where that oneness is spirit and God itself. So the more I look for a fault, the more something is going to show up to convince me of a fault. What I'm looking for instead is a possibility, is something to appreciate and to honor and to recognize. Now, to get back to the question, so if something shows up in my life, it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. My responsibility, because the responsibility means the ability to respond. I am the only one who can really respond to anything that happens in my life. Other people can help me out, other people can step in, they can show me stuff, but when something, quote, bad happens, which I assume means something I don't want, that gets labeled as bad by me or by someone else, then I have a responsibility to deal with that. And I can deal, and it's mine to deal with, it's mine to heal if something needs to be healed. It's mine to change if something needs to be changed. It's mine to adjust, it's mine to know better. I'm the only one that can do it. Does that make it my fault? No. Because there is no fault here. Sometimes things happen to us that we call bad that are total surprises, not because we have had some belief in that particular thing, but because we simply accept the world consciousness we live in that says bad things happen to people. And these sorts of bad things happen. And the average number of people, if you look at statistics a lot, you look at averages, an average number of people have these things happen to them. A certain number are going to die in plane crashes. A certain number are going to have cancer. A certain number are going to have this, that, and the other. And if I choose to believe in those and say, oh wow, that's a terrible statistic, and I get all caught up in it, then I'm opening the doorway to become one of those statistics. What I can do and what this teaching teaches me to do is to know that that might be the law of averages and the way the world works, but I'm not that. I'm not living in that law of averages unless I start to think or believe that I might be. Or that it's possible for me to participate in those kinds of things. But that takes some real mental and emotional discipline that comes from really building a solid faith that that's not me. Or that I am this rather than that. I am perfect health. And then it also comes from the idea that underneath whatever that bad thing is, Spirit is still there. God is still there. Light is still there. Love is still there, no matter how dark and difficult it might appear to be. And that there is something that I can create in that moment that will change my life for the better and change the lives of those around me for the better. It's not a quick and easy fix, nor a quick and easy answer, but it is certainly a path toward greater and greater living with fewer and fewer surprises as we continue to grow and grow with these ideas. One of the ones that I personally battle a great deal is all of the nonsense about aging. My body is getting older. I'm not, but my body is. And it's easy to start buying into all the things because, we're bombarded with how bad off we're supposed to be after a certain age. And as we get older, it gets worse and worse and worse. And, you expect this to fall apart and that to fall apart. And I have to constantly keep my head cleaned up and say, wait a minute. It's not true for me. It doesn't have to be true for me. Worrying, by the way, about any of that stuff is simply a way to invite it in. Worry about whether I'm going to get it means I'm believing on some level that I could be that person. And as soon as I start believing it, the universe begins to respond to my thoughts, and I open the door. But there's rarely a direct correlation between the thing that happens as a surprise and some direct belief you've been having about that thing. It's usually more general. The outpicturing comes from a deeper belief Okay, about our center here, what is a concise answer to tell people when they ask, what is this? It's a good one, because I know that people really struggle with that at times. This is a place where you are loved unconditionally and accepted for who you are. See, if you want to tell people about who we are, don't try to describe what we are, describe what you experience in being here. This is a place where I found life. I was in a depth of darkness when I came here, and hopelessness and all of that, many, many, many years ago. This is a place where I found hope, where I found a way of thinking and living that changed my life for the better. It's a place where I found community. At the time, here in Atlanta, back in the 80s, it was one of the few places that I could go with my partner and sit anywhere in the center and hold hands and not have anybody raise an eyebrow. That world has changed a great deal since then, thank goodness. This was a place where I could be loved and appreciated no matter who I was. Those are the kinds of things I say. And it is a spiritual system. We are not a church. We are a spiritual center. We teach a spiritual practice. And we offer lots of opportunities within that practice. I say we're not a church because we are not in that category that would call us believing in the Christian doctrine, the Christian theology specifically as it's taught from a conservative perspective. We are a spiritual center, a gathering of people of like mind who are seekers for greater spiritual truth. And that's all you need to tell folks. Because if you start talking about your experience, they don't need to hear anything else. Because you got their attention. Well, how did that happen for you? What do you do when you go there? Well, we sit and listen to this guy in crazy suits talk. And we sing. And we talk to each other. And we listen to music. And we have coffee. And we make relationships. And we build a community. Those are the things. How do you relate and communicate this teaching to an atheist? Well, that's good. I like that. I love having atheists or agnostics in classes because this teaching does not require that you believe in God. It does require that you have some kind of faith in some kind of system at work in the world, or at least a curiosity about how the world works and how life works. And the philosophy then is all about, you can take it purely secular into a universal field of what is it? A universal, unified field of expression. Deepak talks about it a lot. The physicists talk about it, that there's a universal field, and out of which particles form, and out of those particles, larger particles form, and out of those particles, bodies form, and energies form, and life forms. You don't have to call that God or anything else. You don't have to think about it that way. But scientifically, there is a unified field in which we all live, move, and have our being, and are still fully immersed in and connected with. And it is understandable and predictable. And when you understand how it works, you can use your thoughts to get a different response from it and within it. And that's all it is. We use the God language because it's familiar for many of us, and what people have reached out and believed God to be in various forms and versions over the centuries is the best. This is a shortcut language to that unified field. But it isn't necessary to believe in a God to believe this. And I realize I use God language more than I used to, but I like to think that I say it often enough that the God I'm talking about is not the guy in the sky or any culturally defined idea of God, but it's a shortcut for the universal, unified field of experience and information, and out in which and out of which we all go and grow. Otherwise, tell me, call me if you're not comfortable with that. Okay. What's the best way to turn any idea around when I am sick? Don't think about sick, which is hard to do when you're sick. Oh, I wonder what caused this. Did I cause that over here? Must be must be because I'm mad at my mom. Well, no, that's the psychologists talking about that stuff. The best thing to do if you're ill is to think about spirit, think about God, think about life, think about truth. Because no matter how ill you are, if you're still on the planet, You're more healthy than you are ill. Your body's still working. Our tendency is to only see the ill places, not the healthy places. And I understand that. When my toe hurts, my toe is the only part of my body that I'm aware of or care about. And yet the truth is, 98% of me is working just fine. And it's healthy. So turn your attention away from, not pretending it's not there. This is not about some sort of pie in the sky. It's not there. Let's all pretend and let's all drink the Kool-Aid and ignore it all. It's about though putting your mind and your attention on what is, not what isn't. The presence of illness is the absence of health. Put your mind on health. Spend your time with that. If you're having trouble doing it, call a practitioner. That's what they're here for. That's part of what we're here for, is to help you and to do it on your behalf until you can make that shift. Because when you are feeling sick, it's hard to do that by yourself. Keep affirming, I am perfect health. One of Dr. Holmes' teachers said that the presence of illness or the presence of trauma or the presence of any of this is the opportunity for spirit to reveal itself in even greater abundance and freedom and health and all of that. And so it's a reaching forward, knowing that this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity for spirit to reveal. Yes. So speaking of which, one of the questions was, who were Dr. Ernest Holmes is the founder of our teaching. He wrote the Science of Mind textbook that we use as kind of our core starting place. It's not the only thing we teach. One of the questions was, who were his teachers? One of his teachers was Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was a founder of, well, she was a teacher. She worked for a time with Mary Baker Eddy and Christian Science. She partied with her when Mary Baker Eddy declared herself as the final revelation. Emma said, oh no, the revelation still goes on. Every time you become aware of infinite working in some way in your life, aware of love, aware of life, then greater revelation is happening. And so she parted with him, and she became a teacher of teachers. She traveled around the country in the late 1800s and taught basic core ideas of spirituality. Ernest Holmes was her last student. She taught him in a one-on-one situation where he met with her in her hotel room and would come in and sit down, and she would come out in her big flowing robes and sit down and teach and talk, and then she'd go disappear. Finally, he got her to stay around and answer some questions, and then they developed a relationship. He wrote the Science of Mind textbook shortly after that particular experience with her. Other teachers he had were connected. Huxley was one, a philosopher. Holmes was also not a very bashful person. At that time, they didn't have the internet, so he couldn't sit down and just go chase things to find out. So, but what he did do was, if he heard about some teaching or some new idea happening in the country that he thought might be connected to what he was doing or that he wanted to know about, he went to see them. He would hop a train and go wherever he needed to go in the country and beat on their door till they let him in and talk to him. He didn't go back with second-hand information. He would go with first-hand information. Consequently, he was friends with Albert Einstein. He was friends with Yogananda. He did a lot of correspondence back and forth with Yogananda. He did Einstein did his famous walks in the afternoon, which is when he would contemplate life and things would come forward at that. He and Holmes would do that together occasionally. So he really connected in with the great thinkers of his age. There is some evidence that he knew Bill W. and was involved in helping to formulate and create some of the core ideas and some of the core practices of the Alcoholics Anonymous and other anonymous programs that grew out of that. This is not some off-to-the-side little teaching. This is a core teaching, core ideas that have shaped this country and shaped our world in a big way. How does today's advanced technology affect this teaching? Thank you for this question, because it gives me a chance to say we have a website. And one of the ways it has affected this teaching is that we don't communicate with each other the same way we used to. We also don't learn the same way we used to. You know, the people who are studying learning theory and how it works have become very aware that in our modern day of short messages and fast change, and the idea of someone coming and sitting in a classroom for 2.5 hours and listening to someone talk, and then doing that for a 12-week period is just kind of ridiculous. Some of us in my generation who learned that way and still like that find it satisfying, but most people don't. One of the ways that technology has affected us is not so much in the core of what we teach, but the way in which we bring it forward. Consequently, we have a Facebook page. I invite you, if you're not part of CSL's Facebook page, to join it, to get on it, to say yes, and every time you see some wonderful thing come out from us, share it. Because the more we share, the more people know, and the more we can build awareness of this place. I haven't been doing it, I keep intending to, but I'll do it right now. Before you leave today, take out your cell phone if you're a Facebook user and tell everybody where you are. Send it out, let them know this is where we are, this is what we're doing. Our website is being revamped and cleaned up right now. We're going to be bringing it back into the 21st, wherever we are, to the current place, whatever century this is, and getting it caught up and brought into a greater expression. Any of you who are gifted at some of these areas, please yell. Coming up soon as I have the technology people to help me do it, we're going to start using this screen and projector so you don't just have to look at my pretty face, you can look at my pretty face and pictures while I'm talking. And while we're talking and while we're doing various things, you can see our announcements up there instead of me just reading them to you, or you get them in your email or whatever. If you're not getting our newsletter, sign up out front, because that's a great way to keep up with what goes on. It comes out about twice a month, and we'll keep you posted. So thank you. Time to wrap up. See what's the last question I want to do here. Last question. What is your personal vision for the future of CSLM, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown? I believe that we have been a successful teaching in Midtown for a long time. I was around in some of the early days, not the very early days, when this center really first started in a bar in the Admiral Benbow Inn, meeting on Sunday mornings, because Kennedy Schultz came from New York, where he was in a very rich and wonderful center, and he didn't like the one that was here. There was a center that was here before that, First Church. I apologize for not giving honor to that, because that is part of our lineage as well. And I'm not sure when First Church started. Ross, do you know?
Before the bar.
I know it was before the bar. You don't know what year? I don't either. The bar was about in the late 70s. And they met in the bar because the bars were closed on Sunday in those days, and they could get it free, and they had, and nobody was around, and there was lots of ironies about that, but they started there and it grew. Kennedy Schultz had not taught this teaching. He was not a practitioner. He had no credentials. He just wanted it to be taught the way he was used to it, so he started doing it that way. And it shaped up and formed, and when it got to be so big that they couldn't meet in the bar and they moved elsewhere, the powers that be at the organizational level sent him a minister's license and said, "You're doing it, so here, it's your license." So we grew out of the grassroots of what worked and what was there. So I'm saying all that to say we have a history of innovation and change and whatever. I believe that the days when the only way to teach this teaching is in a really quiet, separate, you come in, you don't talk to anybody, and you leave, those days are over. They serve some people, and as long as they serve some people, I invite you to do that. Please, show up at 11 o'clock and leave at 12 and be perfectly happy and know that you're loved and supported. But in our current world, you can get many of these ideas and teachings on the web. You get them in business meetings, you get them in other places. What you don't get is community. What you don't get is the gathering of a group of people to support one another as we reveal the greater truth of life within us. And I believe that's our future at CSL Midtown. That we anchor this here on Sunday morning the way we are doing and have been doing. And we continue with our celebrations. And we begin to grow and develop as people are interested and find the innovation to do it, some other ways to be together. I'm teaching classes now online as well as in person. We will probably be headed down that direction and doing more. There'll be opportunities to build. There's some amazing social groups that happen now where people get together and share really deep, meaningful life experience online. And with our traffic world we have here, meeting at 7 o'clock at night somewhere is a challenge for many people. So there are other ways to do it. So we're looking at innovative ways to continue to bring the basic core idea of this teaching forward. CSLM, I shared with you last month, or the month before, we've been talking about wanting to build a bigger base, to build our financial base, that we have been dipping into our savings account to pay our bills, which is why it was there, because we knew there would be a transition and a shift, and it was all good. Now I can tell you quite joyfully that in both April and May, all of our bills were paid without dipping into our savings account. So thank you. So we're through this, but with anytime there's a minister change in place, there's a shift. And there's always the bumpy rocking back and forth while people figure out, is this guy going to be who I want to be with? Is this the center I want to be with now that it's changed leadership and changing character and culture and all of that? And we're in the midst of that right now. Some people are finding it doesn't work. Other people are saying, oh, wow, I want to be here. We can do this. So we're getting people coming and going. And that's, again, as it should be. Life is not about stagnant staleness of any kind. So I see us as a successful, growing, thriving center. We are continuing to do that. We're continuing to move in that direction, and I don't see anything opposing that, anything that could stop us. And those who are finding this to be a place they resonate with are coming and participating, and those who don't aren't. They're finding their own place. I wouldn't want you to be anywhere except a place that resonates with you and with me. So that my vision is we go, we grow, we continue to bring this teaching forward, and we do it with ease and grace. Because you're wonderful, and so am I, and so it is. So let's take a moment and let's go within. I will announce to you right now, we're going to run about 5 minutes over. That will not be a regular habit of mine, but it happened today. So if you need to leave, feel free to do so after we meditate. Here's the truth. One power, one light, one life. And I know that within me is that true spiritual being, that true spiritual self, that unfolds with ease, with grace, and that is right here present with me all the time. No matter what situation I find myself, no matter where life seems to be taking me, no matter where I have been, the presence of that one infinite something, God itself, spirit, life, universal field of love and information and energy, it has never left me, it never will, it never could. Whatever situation I'm facing, I am facing with ease, with grace, and with great confidence that no situation is greater than who I am. No situation is greater than who Spirit is as me. No situation is greater than the universal intelligence, the infinite intelligence that has brought me into shape and form and continues to shape and form my life as I move forward. So I declare within me my truth, my answers, my questions, knowing that they are all good and that I am all good. And that life unfolds with ease and grace and power. I'm grateful for this teaching. I'm grateful for every person here. I'm grateful for the love that life is. I'm grateful for the freedom that is my natural birthright. And I'm grateful that I'm supported and celebrated in expressing my freedom. Whatever way I am guided and directed. So in that gratitude and ease right here and now, I can release this treatment, knowing this work is complete for now, and more is great, the best is yet to come. I let this be so. And so it is. So join us if you'd like as we celebrate our prosperity. We're celebrating your prosperity. We're also celebrating the prosperity of the center. As you give and contribute and bring your gifts to the center, we do so with joy, with ease. We like to say, give till it feels good. Give till you, because your giving simply keeps that circulation going for yourself as well as for all of us. So thank you first of all for your great contributions, and for those of you who have gone above what you've done before in order to turn this thing around. And I am extremely grateful for that from all of you. So whether you're giving a good thought, treatment, an idea, or bucks, we appreciate it and we say thank you.